the summary is that Pfizer has been committing a massive experiment on the human race. I don't think it's too much to say that, with murderous outcomes, and not telling us. And also our government knew and hid it. They knew every single thing. These documents say FDA confidential at the bottom of many of them, and they did not disclose to us. So some of the main headlines are Pfizer knew and the FDA knew a month after the rollout in November of 2020 that the vaccines did not work. They knew they had, quote, their words, waning efficacy or vaccine failure. And they gave limited, if any, protection. Well, you and I didn't know that until April of the following year, after millions of people had accepted 2 vaccines, thinking, this is it, I'm done. I'm protected, because that's what we were told by the spokesmodels and by the government employees, the government agencies, safe and effective. Our president said, you will be completely protected once you're vaccinated. They knew it wasn't true. And it wasn't until April of 2021 when a study came out of Israel showing waning efficacy. And then, oh, wow, I guess you need a booster. I guess you need 6 boosters, right? Ultimately, we found the CDC documents showing they planned for 6 different boosters long ago. But the FDA knew this 6 months before and did not tell us. We weren't told that the mRNA, the lipid nanoparticles, and the spike protein does not stay in the deltoid, the injection site, even though every doctor, every spokesperson claimed that it did. I had doctors telling me when I said, where does it go? They said, oh, it stays in the deltoid, of course. Not true. Pfizer knew, and the FDA knew, that within 48 hours, it goes right into your bloodstream. And from there, it lodges in your liver. And again, many children are having liver problems now. People are mystified. It goes into your liver. It goes into your adrenals, your lymph nodes. And if you're a woman, it goes into your ovaries and lodges there. They knew that. Pfizer lost hundreds of records of adverse events. They stopped locating them. Pfizer knew that about 4 months after the rollout of the mass vaccination, there had been more than 42,000 adverse events. Oh, more than 1,200 people died. And 4 of those people died on the day that they were injected. 4 of those people died on the day that they were injected. Pfizer knew, oh, this one is one of my most distressing headlines. As a mother and as a stepmother, they knew in May of 2021 that 35 teenagers had heart damage a week after having been injected with mRNA vaccines, and they didn't tell us. The FDA knew, they didn't tell us. Millions of teens, including young adults that I love, as a result of the rollout and the EUA approval in June of 2021, saying, go ahead, it's okay for teens, safe and effective. They didn't tell parents till August of 2021 about myocarditis. So that was 4 months in which parents did not have informed consent and went ahead and got their minors injected, even though young adults and teenagers and children are at very little to no risk from COVID if they don't have serious comorbidities. Pfizer, oh, here's one. And then I'll get to the babies. I have to get to the babies before you stop me. But Moderna's dose, according to the Pfizer documents, is 100 micrograms of these lipid nanoparticles, spike protein, and mRNA. Pfizer's dose for adults is 30, so less than a third the same amount. Pfizer knew that 100 micrograms was so dangerous and had so many more adverse events that they stopped it internally due to its reactogenicity. That's their word. But they didn't tell my mom, who got the 100 microgram Moderna dose. They didn't tell anyone who got the first and second Moderna dose that the amount was too high and that it was dangerous and maybe they shouldn't take the booster or they shouldn't take that second shot. They should wait and be observed. They did not tell anyone, but they knew it was too dangerous and they dropped it internally. Let me fast forward to really horrific, the most horrific headlines are the ones that have just come out in the last week or two from these volunteers. So I asked them to drill down into pregnancy and childbirth and lactation, because I did the research, and I share this with readers in the bodies of others, showing that the CDC was saying safe and effective, and the New York Times was saying safe and effective for pregnant women, but there were no studies showing that that was true. Well, the Pfizer document volunteers found that the claims that the vaccines were safe and effective for pregnant women was based on a study of 44 French rats that lasted for 42 days. There wasn't even enough time given these rats, these mother rats, to give birth and see if their baby rats were okay. They autopsied the fetuses, decided they were fine for human women and their babies. And then the people who ran this study were doctors who were shareholders or employees of Pfizer and BioNTech. And BioNTech is the subsidiary that makes the Pfizer vaccines. So it's a totally conflicted study of 44 French rats. In the internal documents, it shows that babies are getting sick and dying from vaccinated mothers. It shows that 270 women, even though pregnant women were excluded from the trials, right? So therefore no basis on which to say they were safe and effective. Nonetheless, 270 women got pregnant during the period that they were being followed by Pfizer. The records of 230 of those are gone. No one can find them. They are missing. But 36 pregnant women were followed. They gave birth, vaccinated women. 28 of those women lost their babies. 20 women, the babies died. It gets worse. An Israeli journalist named Itana Hecht looked at what the Pfizer volunteers were finding, and she pulled together news articles from 3 different countries. The countries are Scotland, Canada, and Israel. And there is a baby die-off, and we now know why that's happening. In Canada, in one province, Ontario, they usually have a baseline of 5 or 6 dead babies, neonatal deaths. In one 3-month period after the province got heavily vaccinated, 86 babies died. So it was so bad that documentary testimony about this. In Scotland, where I used to live, it's an almost completely vaccinated country. In 2021, when everyone got vaccinated, the rate of newborn death doubled. Twice as many newborns died. And in Haifa, in Israel, at Rambam Hospital, vaccinated mothers had a stillbirth, spontaneous abortion, and miscarriage rate 34% above that of unvaccinated mothers. So there's a baby die-off because you've got to scale those numbers, those signals, among 190, vaccinated countries. And if you're wondering why, the War Room Daily Clout volunteers seem to have found at least one of the reasons why. And it's shocking, but it's predictable. Lipid nanoparticles, they're hard, fatty casings. They contain the mRNA. They're tiny, but they're hard. They're made of a fatty substance. Well, this is zooming around in your body, and it's going through every human membrane. It crosses the blood-brain barrier, so that can account for the strokes and dementia-type issues that we're seeing, the hemorrhages, the clotting, so many clotting adverse events. But it also traverses the amniotic membrane. So these hard, fatty alien particles are getting inside the amniotic fluid where the baby lives. And not only that, even if the babies are born okay, what we're finding is that, and this is an NIH study, preprint has shown this, polyethylene glycol, which is in the Pfizer injections, is a petroleum byproduct. It's in white strips, for instance. You're not supposed to ingest it or inject it into your body, and it's in the vaccines. And so vaccinated mothers in the Pfizer documents were showing suppressed lactation, and they were showing 4 of them, their breast milk turned blue-green. I'm not making this up, which Harvey Risch said informally that coloration shows a problem with the blood. And of course, breast milk is related to blood. So the polyethylene glycol is showing up in trace amounts in breast milk that was tested. Well, what's a trace amount if you're a newborn? You're a tiny newborn with no immunities. This is your only food. You're ingesting polyethylene glycol. And the babies in the studies of vaccinated mothers were showing gastrointestinal distress, agitation, and sleeplessness. Well, we're getting reports of that from mothers across the country. And we don't know, they followed them for 2 weeks. We don't know if those babies are thriving or failing to thrive. And there were examples of failing to thrive in the Pfizer documents. And in fact, one nursing baby of a vaccinated mother died and was found to have liver inflammation in the Pfizer documents. So this is happening at a time that they're
Doctor?
yes, I should stop. That's the headline.